about to get started with our 1:30 presentation. Every half hour we're going to have these presentations. There's a lot of really cool prizes. Now the difference between this passport program and any other, rather than you winning a specific prize, we're going to let you choose the gift. So if all 6 of y'all want to win a foosball table, then all 6 of y'all will get one. If you all want drones, it's up to you. So then again, this passport program, we're going to mention it again. I'll show the QR code at the end. But nonetheless, definitely want to do that and visit all of the parts of Cisco here at RSA 2022. So in just a moment, we are going to have a presentation starting, as I mentioned. And after this, we'll be asking 2 trivia questions. Now these questions can lead you to a spin of the wheel, which will give you either a Yeti cooler, we have some tumblers, there's some really cool prizes here today. So definitely stay with Nirav throughout this whole presentation, as he will be asking you 2 questions, and we'll have some winners coming out of here in no time. Nonetheless, without further ado, let me bring Nirav Shah out to tell you about making the case for managed endpoint detection and response. Let's give a big round of applause for Nirav.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. My name is Nirav Shah. I'm on the product marketing team for our secure endpoint solution. Some of you may know this as AM for endpoints, or AM. It's basically our endpoint security or endpoint detection and response. And today I'm going to talk to you about making the business case for a managed service, a managed EDR service. So if you look at this chart here, this shows the number of ransomware attacks we've seen in 2020, 2021, and so far this year. And I think we all know the importance and severity of ransomware, how critical it is to stop these types of attacks. But just to level set, if you look at this chart, you can see here that the number of attacks are pretty high in 2020. They increased even more in 2021, and we're seeing a very similar cadence with a high frequency of attacks in 2022 so far as well. And we expect that the numbers here will be very similar, maybe even higher than what we saw in 2021 towards the end of this year, depending on what happens in the second half of this year. And the reason why I bring this up is, like, when we talk to our customers, we often find that almost every customer is struggling to deal with ransomware. It's top of mind, something that cripples your business operations, makes you puts you on the front page of all the headlines out there. Obviously, a lot of costs associated with, stress associated with that as well. And the reason why, we see this as really the number 1 threat after talking to our customers. And when we talk to them, what we often find is they turn to endpoint security first, right? Naturally, when you're thinking about how do I stop ransomware, you think about, well, I need to protect my endpoint, because anytime you're looking at ransomware and you have fileless malware, they're trying to get to that. They come in through email, they come in through web, they come in through a network side. But at the end of the day, your data, your apps, that either resides on the endpoint or you can access it through the endpoint, right? Your users also, again, on the endpoint as well. But when we're looking at some of the challenges here from a customer perspective, there's 3 main challenges that we've seen that our customers talk about time after time. The first is lack of people. I think we all know this. We all feel the pain here in the cybersecurity arena. If you've been here a long time, or even if you've been here just a few years, you're dealing with a security skills shortage, a talent shortage, right? So a lot of our customers are dealing with that today, but they just don't have enough security staff. Sometimes they have the right number of staff, but they don't have the right expertise, they don't have the right knowledge. So something that a lot of customers have to do is do more with less. On top of that, a lot of our customers also say that, hey, I have inefficient processes. My processes aren't very adaptable. My environment is changing all the time. The threat landscape is changing very rapidly. But my processes are just, architected maybe 5-10 years ago or whatever, and they're not adaptable. I can't easily change them. And a lot of times we're looking at the security spend, it's not necessarily based on risk, but it's based on as a percentage of IT spending. And the last piece is about the technologies. I don't have the right technologies in place. I have too many products, too many solutions. They're all throwing out a bunch of false positives, a bunch of different alerts. How do I make sense of that? How do I figure out what's actually an incident, what's actually a threat in my environment, and what's just an alert as a false positive? And it doesn't help that when you have all these different solutions, they don't necessarily talk to each other. Maybe they have automation, sometimes they don't. And so you're stuck doing doing a lot of manual tasks. And so a lot of our customers say, well, I'm dealing with a lot of burnout right now. I'm just having to do more with less. We don't have enough people because our technologies, our processes aren't enough, are insufficient. This is just leading to gaps in our security where we're spending a lot of time trying to figure out what to prioritize, trying to figure out, well, how do I investigate a threat? What do I investigate? Spending a lot of time on response. And as a result, something ultimately gets through the cracks, right? Because you're not going to have the time and the resources to investigate and prioritize and respond to every single incident in your environment. It's just not possible. And so when we're looking at this from our vantage point, and you're looking at our endpoint detection and response solution, or any other vendor out there, there's a few different things to keep in mind, right? So a lot of customers say, well, I need to put an endpoint solution in place, or I need a more modern endpoint detection response solution, but I'm dealing with all the costs of this, right? Which is, you're looking at the licensing costs, you're looking at the hardware, a lot of times you have to deal with implementation, hire third parties, consultants, for example, which can get pretty expensive. You also have to have renewals and maintenance, and of course you have to have the staff. You have to train the staff to use these tools as well. And so a lot of our customers were like, well, how do we deal with this? We want to put a new solution, a new EDR solution, but we don't have the cost and the resources to do that. And that's really when it makes sense to have a managed security service in place. So a managed security service, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that, but just a level set. Basically, you have a third party that's doing it for you, that's monitoring your endpoints, managing endpoints, looking after them. Typically, it's a follow the sun approach where they're looking at your endpoints 24/7 by 365, because a threat can happen in the middle of the night, of course, and you pay them a certain fee per month per endpoint to do that. And so this is something where when we talk to our customers, we tell them, well, you can manage this yourself and you can do it yourself, but if you don't want to, or if you don't have the resources to do so, maybe it makes sense to look at a managed security service. And there's a few different benefits to this, right? So first of all, this enables you to focus on your core business. A lot of our customers are, they're security experts, but maybe they don't have enough staff, or maybe they want to focus on selling the newest widget, right? So if this is not something that you necessarily want to focus on as a business, and you want to focus on your core business, great opportunity to do that. But in addition, when you're looking at security service, this gives you the opportunity to give you the right security expertise that you need, right? Because when you're looking at organizations like Cisco or other managed security experts, we can give you the expertise that you need. We can give you that 24/7 by 365. We have experts all across the world who can help you with that. Something that a lot of customers talk about, well, we can augment or even replace our security staff because we have experts to do that. And of course, we're using some of the latest and greatest technologies out there, right? We're using the entire security platform, which I'll talk more about, that can help you to really go out and accelerate that detection response times. And ultimately, you don't have to go in alone anymore. When you're looking at some of these vendors out there and you're looking at managed security services, you don't have just your maybe it's a skeleton staff of 2 or 3 people or 3 to 5 people. You have an entire organization kind of behind you who can help you to find these threats. And we've probably seen some of these threats before and know what to do. And the last piece is, when you're looking at the spending from a financial standpoint, you can replace that CapEx spending and replace it with a flexible OpEx model, which allows you to tune up or turn up or turn down your spending depending on the needs of your business. So what we have here at Cisco is something what we call Secure Endpoint Pro. This is a new service that we introduced earlier this year. And what this essentially is we've taken our EDR solution, Secure Endpoint, or like I mentioned earlier, used to be known as AMP or AMP for endpoints, and we've turned that into a managed service. So what that means is we're basically monitoring your endpoints, we're managing your endpoints. We have a team of around 2,200 people worldwide, believe it or not, from Cisco Talos, who are going out there and looking at your endpoints, and they're monitoring every single incident within your environment. And this allows you to really kind of offload that security to us, right? Because we're doing the heavy lifting, we're doing the hard work. You don't have to lift a finger or do a ton of work to do all of that. We're we're using a lot of automation, a lot of playbooks. We have our SecureX platform, which is our XDR or Extended Threat Detection Response solution that kind of underpins that. So think of it like as getting the intelligence from endpoints, your email, your network, your cloud, all of that, correlating it, and then being able to tease out some of these threats. And the last piece of this is, of course, we're investigating every single thing out there. So like I mentioned, most security teams just don't have the time and the resources and the bandwidth to go out there and figure out, well, which of these incidents or events are actually threats. Believe it or not, we actually have the bandwidth to do that, right? Because we have, like I said, 2,000 plus people worldwide. We're in 175 countries. So we will actually go out there and investigate every single incident and then prioritize all that. So the way it works is we're basically taking in all the analytics. We're looking at everything alert across your organization that's coming in from your endpoints. We're taking that, within a few minutes, we're going to prioritize that. So we're going to take a look at that. We have automation built in as well, so we can kind of filter out the noise. And then based off of that, we'll give you that priority back to you, right? So we'll say, okay, this is a level 1 or priority 1. This is priority 2 or level 2. Those ones, we're going to give you a phone call. So anything that's super high priority, something that you need to look at immediately, we'll give you a phone call within an hour. Anything else below that, you'll still see that in your service portal, and everything will show up there. And the great thing about this is you also have a little bit of control over that. So you can say, okay, we found this threat. What do we want to do next? We will give you the recommended actions, saying that should we block this file hash? Should we block this URL? Isolate the endpoint. So we'll give you those recommended actions. You can approve or reject that as well. So allows you to kind of work with us to figure out, well, what do you think is the best thing to do to remediate this and stop this from spreading in your environment? So really interesting service. If you're interested in learning more about it, so here's some of the benefits here. So some of the benefits, real briefly, is allows you to strengthen your security posture because we're doing a lot of the hard work for you. You have always on security ops because, like I mentioned, we have teams across the entire world. This is going to help you to radically reduce the time it takes you to detect the threats, reduce that dwell time, and of course stay ahead of some of the latest threats out there. So if you're interested in learning more, some of the next steps, you can go to our website. So it's cisco.com/go/secure-endpoint pro. Shortened version of this is cisco.com/go/endpoint. We also have our demo pod back here where we're talking about Secure Endpoint Pro, and you can kind of see it in action. So feel free to stop by or go to this URL and learn more about it. And I'm going to hand it back over.
Yes, all right. Big round of applause for Nirav.
Thank you.
Definitely learning a lot here at RSA 2022. We're happy to have everyone back. We're learning and we're expanding our minds as to all the things possible, especially with Cisco and our products. Now we're going to squeeze it to the next slide there, and that's going to have our QR code. So that QR code is ultimately going to be your QR code to prizes. So get one more. There we go. So use this QR code. You're getting the first step of the 4 that will give you 2 entries to our grand prizes.